2019, it comes to an end tonight. Now, reflecting back, the Muslims of Jammu and Kashmir, while they've seen decades of discrimination, they've seen decades of violence against them. But this year particularly, since August 5th, the revocation of Article 370 of the Indian Constitution that gave them some autonomy, they gave them some semblance of normalcy, though they remained in an internationally disputed region. Reflecting back on this year alone, share with us your thoughts on how things have changed for the Muslims there.
Well, I think it's become increasingly clear that what the Indian agenda has been so far, what has happened since 1947 is that the Article 370, which came into effect in 1949, it was slowly and steadily eroded by different governments. So it's not that only BJP has been key in doing this. It's been the other governments, quote unquote, the secular governments. But what has happened very recently with BJP, because they have a very clear agenda of creating a Hindu Rashtra. So this is a very militant, very extremist, and a terrorist Hindu supremacist state that has made its face very brazen. And now, as are happening in India with the citizen amendment law that has come into effect as an act, you kind of see the chronology that has been in effect since 1947 in a way. And what we see is an unfolding of an anti-Muslim, a very Islamophobic, a xenophobic agenda in which Kashmir becomes very key because it was and it is continuing to be at the moment at least a Muslim-dominated state. And what BJP has been saying from the very first instance from 1947 onwards, that they do not want Article 370, they want uniformity throughout the country, and they have never been for this special status. But that doesn't mean that Kashmir is just any other state that can be accommodated and integrated into India, because the founders, the forefathers of Indian Constitution, the forefathers of Indian independence movement, they did realize that Kashmir has its own nationalistic identity, which is why all things happened around it at that time. But now it's becoming increasingly clear with what is happening with the Muslims across India, with what's happening at the moment as we see this revolution building up. At least I'd like to see that as a revolution of sorts, where the Muslims in India, that they kind of like wake up to what's happening to them because they have been suffering as well. An anti-Muslim agenda that has been on a slow boil in different governments and has become pogroms and massacres. But at the moment, it's aflame. It's very volatile. So if you see in that chronology, Kashmir has been suffering a xenophobic ideal that India sees itself as a very nationalistic, a very Hindu state. So as we are wrapping the year, what's happening in Kashmir at the moment is this fear of settler colonialism, the fear that now that Article 370 is revocated, now that Article 35A, which used to promise Kashmiris territorial sovereignty, which meant that they had property rights, they had right to franchise, now that's been opened up. And as we see what's been happening since August 5th, there are several orders that have come into being. There are forest clearances happening, there is state land that's being identified. There are different ways, like the roads are being laid, all kinds of machinery which kind of integrates Kashmir to India, like blasting through these mountainous regions, laying down different kinds of, roads and railways. So you kind of see that happening. What earlier would take Kashmiri legislature and Kashmiri cabinets, they would take time to make decisions about what to do and what not to do. But they are being done away with as soon as possible. I think, in fact, it's been August 6th or 7th or something like that, within the first 10 days, that there were hundreds of clearances that were given by the forest, one of the committees that deals with forests. So you kind of see that creeping settler colonialism, you kind of see that danger, you see what is on the agenda, and Kashmiris are very cognizant of that. And now exacerbated by the fact that they are living under Armed Forces Special Powers Act, which gives military full control over the region. So put those two together and we know what we are up against in Kashmir, which is a blatant Islamophobia, which is blatant anti-Muslim agenda, and also diluting the region to an extent that it no longer is a dominant Muslim majority state.